Here, he might be late, but he's okay. Oh.
Hey, great, good to see everybody. You're welcome, Peter. Oh, yeah.
Now, y'all, I did not warn our guest speaker that we were this route.
I bet he's seen it before. He's seen it before.
You're right.
I don't have too much business. And a reminder for July, we've got a bunch of stuff on schedule, and one of them is the should I have taken that shot that I have talked about. And what I'd like you to do is go through your files, see something or more than one thing that you now ask yourself, should I have taken that, or why, or even why did I take that? And send everything to me. I think it would be easier if I put everything on one thumb drive and bring it in here. I've got a bunch of stuff, and it doesn't have to be just people that you might be embarrassing. It's one of the shots I'm going to show is I took inside Westminster Abbey in London, which is strictly no photography.
Figures.
Go Peter, but it's to the shot because I turned around, there was the sun coming through a window and the whole building lighted up in this incredible scene. And so I just and got it. And should I have taken that shot? Well, legally, no. But from a photography standpoint, you betcha.
How much time did you spend in jail?
I only got fined £100. No, I didn't get fined at all because
I didn't know about it.
it's such a crowded place.
I'm sorry, do you need those like this month or?
For the July
meeting?
July meeting.
Very good.
I'm sure you all got something where you just feel. Should I? And I'd like to have a discussion about. Did we do that? This all, the impetus for this course was Chuck Ku Klux Klan. He did a photograph where he and I both agreed, yes, I should have taken that. But somebody else said, no, we shouldn't. But let's see. Sue, you want to talk?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you here. Great crowd. I'm so happy to be able to get our guest speaker today. But for July, what we have planned is, again, it's based on your suggestions and your recommendations. So in July, we're going to have, I don't know what to call it yet. We'll think of between MJ and I will call it something so fabulous. You'll definitely want to come. But we want to have different stations. Bring your gear. Ask somebody about your gear. This is new to me. I don't know how to use this. Does anybody have this experience? Or should, someone will come up to you and ask you about what lens you're using, what's successful, what's not. Also, I'd like to have a station. Well, we will have a station. Tom Hennessy has agreed to do a Lightroom Classic station for us and show, like, I don't know about you, but I still have trouble removing some objects using Lightroom Classic. I frequently will go to Photoshop to remove it. He could show us how to do that. I mean, if it's a spot, I can do that, but if it's something more complicated, Photoshop, but maybe there's an easier way in Lightroom to do that. And maybe we'll have a station on Photoshop. If anyone would like to volunteer, that'd be great. And I don't know how many YouTube videos I have seen, I still cannot do the hair. So that's what I have issue with. And Nancy and maybe Anita. I volunteered Anita, she's not here. Who's not here? Let's just volunteer. They agreed to show us Topaz. So if you're interested in buying maybe Photoshop, buying Lightroom Classic or upgrading to those or to Topaz, it'd be a great opportunity to do that. Or if you just have an image that, it's not popping. Do you have any suggestions? And we have lots of suggestions. We're all photographers. We'll all have an opinion on that. But also it's a social out. So bring your favorite beverage in your your creatively designed ergonomic, Roger, your mug, bring your favorite beverage in that. I'll bring donuts or bagels and all those bad carbs if somebody wants to bring food. Just save your receipts. And we'll walk around and ask questions and just have a good time, so we don't have to wait till December to have another social hour while learning something as well, okay? Let's see. So that's July. And September, Chuck has graciously contacted our September speaker on who will be doing it on. And he is a photographer and he'll use an art process to show us how to make it a little different. So thank you, John. Okay, shall I go ahead? And John, are you ready? May I introduce you?
yeah.
Sir.
I think you said at that other meeting on president was July, it's August, right?
No, August hasn't been firmed up yet. So
Okay.
we're on it. This
So are we gonna do, should I have taken that shot and this
Yes,
in
Yeah,
July?
so it's a social hour
Okay.
and photo share, and should I have taken this and get to know one another a little bit better?
I mean, I look forward to that because Harold and I were talking before the meeting and I've got an old D300 that weighs about 14 pounds. And I'd like to talk to somebody about mirrorless cameras, which weigh much less, because my shoulders are starting to hurt me.
Hey, Ray,
Hey,
welcome.
Oh, okay, good. Our treasurer is here.
wow,
Ray, you have anything to report?
I'm really don't, things are moving along okay.
We're not in the red.
We're not going,
Not in the red, good. Okay.
we will owe our liability insurance soon, that's about it.
Liability. Okay.
Sue, why don't you introduce our speaker?
John, you good? I'll go ahead and.
Yep.
Okay. Well, this is just a disclaimer because I did not clear this introduction with John, so any mistakes that I make are unintentional and they're all mine. I remember this time last year when Ann Savage, one of our recent guest speakers, came into our photography class at John Tyler Bright Point College and was so excited. We got him. We finally got him. We got him. I'm so glad. And the students, we all looked around. Who is she talking about? Who is she talking about? And finally she said, John Henley is going to do a photography class here and you all need to take it. Well, luckily for me, my semester's schedule worked out. And when I told my husband, because he'll say, what are you doing now? Are you going to school again? What are you doing? I told him, I'm taking this photography class by John Henley. When I told that to my husband, he said, John Henley. I think he took my headshots way back there. That was many years ago. So that was my introduction to John Henley. John studied photography as an undergrad at the San Francisco Art Institute, eventually returned to Richmond for his MFA in the VCU Arts Department of Photography and Film. And over the years, he has had a long and steady career as an assignment and commercial photographer and has worked with many creative designers and directors. A lover of nature and the outdoors, John has shot for LLB. Now, I haven't been to Short Pump this summer, I think it was last summer, but I think you'll see his images still there. Also, John is involved in producing personal work. In 2014, he began his book, Artists, which took 6 years to complete. This is a collection of portraits that pay special homage to the longtime local artists of Richmond who have been influential and instrumental in the growth and visibility of Richmond's local or cultural landscape. He has shown his work in numerous galleries in and outside of the Richmond area. John has recently, is currently still teaching at VCU, photography at VCU, was at Virginia State University, and most recently at Bright Point. This morning, John will help us better understand the technical and the artistic side of using external flash. And as he told me this morning, he doesn't like to use any of that. He likes to use natural light, as we probably all like to do. But what he has learned over the years is how to make the artificial look natural. So please, let's let John feel right at home and welcome him.
So, about that show, that body of work, that book, artist. That's kind of when I really got involved with this kind of lighting, and actually I was teaching this at VCU. To students who could not afford to buy fancy studio lights. So they have a class where basically speed lights are adapted to a more kind of sophisticated studio sort of purpose, I guess. And I'm using these things called pocket wizards, which are a little more expensive. But what we use at VCU are these little guys. They still are around, but it used to be Cowboy Studios. I love that name. But I think they went out of business, but somebody else is making them now. This is the receiver. There's a little trigger that goes on the hot tube of your camera, and I mean they're probably about $30 or $40 or something like that. They're not terribly reliable, so kind of you get what you pay for. But I mean, you can buy 3 or 4 sets of these or more for what you pay for the pocket wizards. But anyway, the whole idea of going off camera, when I was shooting these artists, they have very dark studios, a lot of them. I started out thinking I was going to shoot Tri-X film and you know, push it to 800 or something like that, or 1600. And I did a couple of shoots like that, and they were just so grainy and funky that I went back to the idea of shooting digital again. I don't really have to push, but I also started using lighting, so I don't really have to push digital very far at all. I mean, I usually shoot it 200, 100, sometimes 400. But with with this kind of control, I could get. The other thing is that in the studios, the lighting was never where I wanted it to be, and I didn't want to always have people standing by the window. You know, I wanted to be able to pick the place to take the picture, and then create the light there. So yeah, I don't want to belabor that too much, but it's pretty simple what I do. A lot of times I just bounce it off the walls, but I use these umbrellas. Sometimes there are soft boxes you can shoot through, the other things like that. And then sometimes I use reflectors to fill on the other side. I can do two. I have enough to use. I have 2 of these speed lights, so I can actually shoot with 2 lights. But I'm trying not to do that. It's you know, I like to keep things really simple, and I like for my light to look really simple. I don't want to. In fact, I don't even want people to think about my light other than isn't it the same that when I shot outdoors. I want people to think that is so beautiful. That light is so beautiful. That's the same thing I want to get with these, but I don't want to do like really tricky, fancy lighting where that becomes too much the subject of what I'm doing. So, can I get in? Does anybody want to volunteer to be a subject for a couple of pictures? Oh, I was hoping you would. So come on up here, and I have a strobe meter, which I forgot. I think we stand right here.
But let me ask you first, what's that thing hanging around your neck?
Oh, this thing, if you all don't have these, I love this thing. And this is why I don't shoot tethered ever. Because between that big display and this guy right here, even when you're out in the bright sun where you can't see your display, it's you know, it's perfect. It's fantastic.
What do you do with it, John?
Just put it right there. Okay, yeah.
That's
So
cool.
it's really fabulous.
And what's it called?
Yeah.
It's called the Hood Man.
The Hood Man, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think I had one that I put on my, like on my eye.
There used to be a little Hood Man, but now when the displays started getting big on the back of the cameras, they kept making the Hood Man bigger.
If you have difficulty seeing, why don't you set it up and come on up?
Yeah, so anyway, let me see. Yeah, stand right.
Well, so it's better for now.
And I was just gonna say,
It looks too much like a mug shot, you know?
Well, Ed, to improve the photograph, put your face to the wall.
You want us, I'll bring you.
so I have a strobe meter. It's a Lunar Pro strobe meter, which is in my closet at home now, which is not where it's supposed to be, but with digital, the beauty of digital is that you can figure it out just by making a couple of mistakes and correcting them. So,
Let me see, before you put the, gizmo on here,
what's that?
how you use that?
Oh, you just hold it up here. So that you just hold it up like that
Okay.
and look right at the picture.
Gotcha. So it doesn't stay, it doesn't hold up, you gotta hold it up physically.
It's like a magnifying glass. almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's probably, there's a way you could probably adapt it to that, but I think it would get in the way, so that's why it's got this nice little strap here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't tether, you're shooting into, what program?
I've just got the Canon utility.
Which is, yeah, right where I am.
John, what's the name of that gizmo? The Hood Man? It's like a magnifier thing.
I'm sorry, what's that?
The name of that.
It's the Hood Man.
M-A-N?
HOODMAN. Yeah,
It's like the old photographers, the hood on.
yeah.
I guess that would be.
So,
That's a good idea.
let me see what I'm doing here with this. Sometimes I use this, I might do one with it and then one without it, because sometimes I like the drama of real side light.
And we'll give you drama.
Look right at this. So this could be a horrible exposure, but we'll see. Did we get anything?
Yeah.
That's a horrible exposure. So there are two things I can do here, of course. That's at 5.6. So I could go to 8 or 11, but I can, by the way, I'm shooting manual here. So I can, kind of awkward with an umbrella, but I can go around here and go and make this adjustment, set select. And you can see very well, but
So you're increasing the light output?
I'm decreasing.
Decreasing the light output,
Yeah.
because it was too bright.
Right.
Hey, John, what's underneath that? What's attached to the umbrella?
Speedlight.
Another speed light.
Yeah, speed light and another one of these guys.
I have a question here.
One more question.
Speed light, you turned it on. Then what did you do?
Oh,
There's like 3 or 4 choices on the back.
okay, it's on manual. I very seldom, I know you all want me to talk about TTL and all that stuff. Only time I use TTL is when I'm photographing like a wedding. I don't photograph weddings, sporting events or something like that where there's not enough time for me to make adjustments. Then TTL is really good for that, but I usually shoot manual on my strobe.
And you start off at full power, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I usually have that meter with me, so.
So what choice did you make on your camera then? When Shutter speed or by aperture or?
It's just fully manual. I'm a fully manual guy, you know,
So
I come from the shooting 4x5 film cameras, so.
So what about the shutter speed?
Well,
1/100, there is
that's a good question, because it depends on whether I want the environment to be a part of the picture or not. In this case, I don't, but when I was shooting if this was an interesting studio space and I'm just lighting Sue, I might want these people to be a half stop darker than Sue, for instance. So then I use a longer shutter speed to expose everything but Sue. So I'm mixing the light. I might be shooting at a half a second. The flash goes off for an instant and lights Sue, and then the longer exposure controls the room. Right now, I'm just shooting it like a 60th of a second because I'm not really interested in getting any ambient light. So that's the thing about flash. You've got two sources of light at the same time. The flash and then the ambient light, which you can either use or not use, depending on what you want to do. That's really one of the great things about using flash. If I was photographing Sue without flash, I would just have to accept whatever happened in the background because I need to get the right exposure on Sue. Chances are everybody else would be exposed the same way. But with flash, I can photograph Sue, light Sue, and let the background either go dark or go a little dark or go very dark or be normal, you know, whatever I want to do. So you have that kind of control.
What camera are you?
Canon 5D Mark III. I haven't gone mirrorless, and I just don't want to spend any more money on cameras. If I don't have to.
What wattage do you have on your photograph?
What wattage?
Yeah, what wattage?
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, it's just,
Oh, I thought they came in like 200, 400, 600.
no.
No, those are the
this is just speed
studio,
lights.
this is the speed light.
Oh,
You gotta think about studio lights.
Yeah.
These are speed lights.
Studio.
It's road light.
Yeah, turn your shoulders again like that, yeah.
Ooh, hair is awful.
Maybe.
Jacob!
The stuff underneath the hair isn't so great either.
Knew I should have shaved.
Wear it out in your hair.
Your tuxedo.
Right,
Drive to you.
at least brought the black tie.
Actually, he's making you look better, Ed.
That's still pretty.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, make it go brighter. Photographer can do wonders.
All right, so that's still blown out. Do this again.
I think I believe you in that one.
What did you do differently that time?
I stopped all the way down to F16.
Why didn't you just cut your ISO down to 400 or down to 100?
I could have done that. It probably would have been smarter in some ways in most situations because that would not have affected the depth of field. But since the depth of field is really a wall here, it doesn't matter as much. It's quicker.
Now, the ratio of the lighted side to the shaded side of the face, do you just move the reflector, or if you're not happy with
Yeah,
that
you can
ratio,
move the reflector much closer or
or farther back?
or further back. Yeah, actually, probably I'm still not thrilled with that light on his face. So the other thing I can do is just move this back. That's going to affect both sides. So let's see what that does.
What are your settings now?
60th at 16.
60th.
Yeah, he didn't change the settings, but what he did was move the light away from me a little bit. And because of the law of inverse squares, you move it back a little bit, you get a pretty big reduction in.
Shooting at 1/100.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm shooting at 1/100.
ISO 400 f16.
So that's getting to be more interesting to me. This last one. I mean, I kind of do like.
But John, but like you said earlier, the shutter speed is only affecting how much of the ambient light is coming through, right?
Right.
It's the flash speed that's actually
Yeah,
dictating.
the difference in a 60th and 100th is insignificant. Now, if I did a half a second, it might change things, because then it's going to start maybe picking up some of this, but probably not at f16, actually. So,
Do modern cameras still have a flash sync speeds?
Yeah.
I don't even, I know the old cameras did.
yeah, they do. They're getting faster and faster. It used to be a 60th of a second mostly. But, you know, these focal plane shutters, they still have to.
Get in the middle.
Yeah, if you shoot too fast, you get half a picture or something like that. So, you know, that, not that really this is a class about aesthetics necessarily, but you know, if I wanted to, let me just move this closer. But it also has a gold side to it. But I'm just going to move this in a little closer and maybe, as long as I don't get it in the picture. So, you know, yeah, I mean, the lighting is still a little hot, a little bit hot maybe, but on the right side. So it's a little softer now on that side. If I flipped it over to gold, it would be different.
It does look better on the computer screen. The overhead washes a little bit. It's a little hot on the overhead, but on the computer screen, it looks pretty good here.
Did we turn off the overhead?
Yeah.
No, the overhead projector.
Oh,
The overhead projector
I think it.
makes it a little bright and it loses a little of the color saturation. Yeah.
So, I know you all wanted me to talk about, do you want to know more about, I mean, first of all, I don't really know that much about using on-camera flash, but I never shoot automatic. And like I said, I only use TTL in the rare situations where I'm having to run around photographing some event and I don't have time to think about settings. Because, you know, TTL reads what that means through the lens. And so it reads the flash coming through the lens and compensates. And the control you have on TTL is plus or minus. So, but otherwise it's automatic.
You know, even if you're using TTL, here you're trying to get a ratio of light from, you know, the lit side to the shaded side. What does TTL read? Is reading an average of the whole face or something?
I guess, you know, I never used TTL for this kind of thing. I always just use manual. I mean, I came along using those big studio strobe lights. So that you did all controlled everything with them. So that's the way I do this, but yeah, and
Yeah, I think one of the lessons I'm getting from this is that you start off with an educated guess, and then you adjust from there. And it may take you several tries
that's right.
to get to where you want to be.
But what factor is it that you adjust?
there are all kinds of things you can adjust. I mean, you can adjust the angle of the light, for instance, if I didn't want to fool around with all that changing of exposure or moving the reflector closer, I could have just moved the light out here to more like a 45-degree angle. And then it would have been a more conventional kind of lighting. This is, I sort of created a lot of drama, and then I had to sort of try to compensate a little bit, but actually I like this more than I think I like this more than I would have liked 45 degrees, but you know, when I was.
Could you take a few minutes to set up something different so we can see the differences?
Sure, I didn't even take it. I
Yeah,
mean,
get back there, Ed.
God, we need a different model.
He's gonna make a fortune on these photos.
I wanna see these things, you know, like.
I mean,
Make sure you get your share of it.
I just think he should be holding up a series of numbers on.
That's right, it's a name tag off, you know.
I mean, the first thing I could, simple thing I could do would be just eliminate the reflector and then do a more conventional kind of. Is that pretty much where you were?
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, you know, John, do you want to talk about the umbrella you're using? It's not it's not a true reflector umbrella.
Right, it's a shoot-through umbrella, actually, and or it could be a shoot-through umbrella. I have, I guess I could change this and we could. That's not a real reflective one. I have another one of these guys. Thought I had a silver umbrella with me, but I don't. So this one's a little more reflective than that one because it doesn't let anything shoot through it. So, kind of dingy you do, but some of my stuff has been around a while. So that'll probably change things a little bit.
So the 45 degree versus a 90 degree, that just changes the sharpness of the dividing line between.
Yeah, I mean, 45 degree is kind of like some sort of conventional.
Because more light is going on the other side of the face.
There's more fill, there's still a little bit of direction, but there's a lot more fill. It's not flat like front light would be, but it's getting more like that.
Which speed light are you using?
Canon, old Canons from like years ago. Like most of my equipment.
It works.
Yeah, I mean, I never can quite understand. Well, I can understand the mirrorless thing because people don't want to carry these heavy cameras around, but people who had to go from the Mark III to the Mark IV to the Mark V, I never could quite understand that, other than if they were just had enough money to have the latest camera. But I mean, there were improvements between, say, especially early on, the early digital cameras were pretty bad. I remember the first expensive Canon I got was 7 megapixels.
Wow.
So they started really improving, but now, I mean, they're all huge files, more than you can really use. Okay, so now, let's see. This is probably going to be overexposed too, because.
So that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah, with no reflector. So let me put this gold one here.
Yeah, because basically you have the light coming
you know, like towards my left.
Yeah, that's more sort of conventional lighting where you don't need a filter sometimes, and you're actually getting a little bit of filter from here to the top of it, not much.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's. So this ought to be quite different. Oh, by the way, just in case, so you know, I'm shooting on shade on my camera, that's. Okay. I like warm pictures, so.
Shade marks it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, you can change that anyway when you're, but I just like that look, that's why it looks a little warmer.
So it's setting in your camera.
Yeah,
It's the white balance side.
White balance. Oh, that's right.
You look
Yeah.
very healthy yet.
well, you're pretty tan anyway, but. Oh, let's see what that looks like.
And happier.
So you can kind of see that gold, that, you can see that gold right there.
Sorry, I can't see all the climate, but it looks to me like all the settings are the same for all of these pictures. One 100. And I.
Pretty much, well, I haven't done much other than just
Change the light.
made minor changes in the angle of the light and stuff like that.
So camera settings have remained the same, only the light is.
Right.
Correct.
But the distance, I mean, with flash, you know, it's the distance from the flash to the subject that. And there are all kinds of charts and formulas, but if you move back, you know, several feet back, then the exposure is gonna go significantly down when you have to open up the aperture or.
The shutter speed is actually controlled by the flash, you know, the speed of the flash, not the camera. The
Right.
camera shutter only controls a bit of how much the background shutter does. You don't care about the background, you really don't care about this.
Yeah, I could show you, if you all want, I could show you what it's like to use shutter speed for that to become an issue. What I would
Yeah.
actually, Sue, can you move your chair out just a little bit? Forward? Yeah, a little more. So. Am I running overtime here?
No.
No, you got plenty of time. So let's see, actually.
Take your hat off, Frank.
Yeah, it's good to layer out.
Yeah. You make sure I don't pull this.
They're in rare form today.
But you make sure I don't go too far with this thing. I don't. I might have Sue, you might have to come forward a little
Sure.
bit more
You just let me know where.
this way. Yeah, I don't wanna. Get too tethered.
Yeah, cable's a little short.
I know they have long tether cords, but I never shoot tethered, so
Where are you going, Ed?
With a new model. It's done.
Peter, you're next.
okay, so. Turn your shoulders away from the camera a little bit,
This way?
that way, away from the light on it, sort of meant. Yeah. Okay, so we're still at 116 here.
Oh, how did you? Because you got them.
All right, so that's not a very good exposure, but probably needs
No, yeah, no.
it needs to come out this way a little bit, like that. In my way, probably. Try that one more time.
So you're using the speed in the camera to capture the ambient.
I'm not doing that yet. Okay, look at the camera. Okay, now that's hundredths of a second. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna look through my camera. And I'm gonna go all the way down to wide open. And it's still nowhere near. I'm still nowhere near the right exposure. So, so the ambient light here is a sixth of a second at f4. Now, if I wanted to stay around 16 like I was, it would be forever. So I think what I would have to do here is,
Why don't you leave everything, as that last photograph, and just change the shutter speed to see the effect on the background? Like, change the shutter speed to a tenth of a second or something.
Needs that at 1/6.
well, I can, but if I go back to 16 again where I was, well, if I go back to that aperture of 16, we're gonna need like 2.5 seconds. So we can, let's just see what that looks like.
Why would you need something so long when you have a flash?
Because I'm trying
That's
to,
to light the background.
That's right, it's how, we're trying to see how it affects the background, not.
Right, it's mirroring the background.
You just up the ISO.
I should have been done.
it's the relation, no, it wouldn't matter if it's that much. Okay, I didn't need to go that long, but let me try again with it. And also, we're getting some very weird colors here now, but let's try that again.
Okay.
Okay, the color's really crazy, right? But
Unless you wanted that.
Well, I'd say you're shooting on shades, so you're getting a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, plus the
Plus
lights.
the fluorescent lights.
yeah, see, the ambient light, the light on Sue is not too crazy. But the ambient light is that weird,
And all you did was change the shutter speed, right?
yeah.
That was control, the shutter speed, again, the lighting on her is basically just a flash, and then that goes off in thousands of a second or something. But the lower shutter speed gives up ambient light. That's what you're doing.
So why is the skin tone different then?
Because the skin tone is still being lit by this fairly normal, oh, you mean?
But you didn't change that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can't, what I could do is put,
How she comes out is. Everything.
what you can do, I mean, I've got, I didn't bring them with me, I've got this little, set of gels. And so I could gel my flash to match this. And then if there is a fluorescent setting, I doubt it would really fix it, but at least it would get everything uniform, and then in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever, I could clean that up. But I mean, the situation there, we've got two very different colors of light. But I can't affect that, but I can affect this. So I can put a tungsten gel, tungsten to daylight gel or fluorescent to daylight gel on that light. And then everything actually be the opposite, daylight fluorescent. Yeah, gel, so that it's all uniform. But I think more importantly, when I was doing my artist book, by the way, I have a show at the BMFA right now.
I saw it, it's excellent.
So everybody, if you get a chance, go to, it's at the Poly Center. So it's It's a BMFA junior, really, is what I call it.
Shots taken in the studio, in the art studios?
Yes,
I was wondering where they were.
They're beautiful, I've seen some of them.
How long was it there?
it's gonna be there for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. The only
Which part of the BMFA is it?
which the Poly Center is where the old Confederate, daughters of the Confederacy used to live.
Oh, yeah.
They moved out of there. Actually, they moved on to the next, wherever. And none of them left. In fact, they still have, something in that Virginia Historical Society, some kind of display or something, but, anyway, yeah, it's cool. It's kind of across from the main museum,
Yeah.
that long,
That long building.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only day you don't wanna go is on a Sunday because they're not open. It's basically what it is, it's the offices, the staff offices for, people who work in the museums. And it's in the hall. It's a really nice show, actually, but they're not open on Sunday because they don't work on Sunday. Come by to get a cheap. You guys have any questions about anything?
We probably have about 5 minutes.
Do you ever use a hair light, a light to the back? Or?
I do, yeah. I do. I didn't do it a whole lot with the artist portraits because I didn't want that sort of that studio glamour look, but yeah, I mean, I like that. And I teach that. To do that, you need to use big booms, stand with the boom arms. I teach that at VCU a lot, and my students love to do that. Do y'all know George Harrell, photographer George Harrell? He was a Hollywood portrait photographer. I mean, fabulous. If you don't know George Harrell's work, Hurrell, H-U-R-R-E-L-L. Yeah, Greta Garbo, Humphrey Bogart, all those
Glamour shots.
wonderful. He used hot lights, he didn't use strobes. He used
Back in the
big
day.
hot lights, which are nice because they focus like the actual.
Yeah.
Oh, and you could see what the lighting was doing even before you took a shot.
Yeah.
On continuously.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge, but then he couldn't use digital cameras. So.
But John, when you're taking these portraits of these influential local artists, what do they bring to you? Do they tell you this is my side is better? This is I like.
No, I mean, because they're artists, they respect that I'm an artist. They're the easiest people to photograph I've ever photographed because they had so much respect for what I was doing. I tried to do a series of chefs out and I gave up after a while. They would say, well, come in 10 minutes before we open. I would take sometimes 2 hours with these artists. And we do a lot of different shots and
Different locations, do you take them or do you pretty much stay in one location?
it depended. If some studios had 2 different backgrounds that I liked, and I wanted to try both of them. Some didn't, but I tried different lighting. I just sometimes I had to really work with people to get them comfortable. And I got to be fairly good at that, and basically what it comes down to is just really liking the person and getting them to like you. And that's a big effect. I think all this directing stuff is overrated, basically.
Yeah, I have a basic question for you. A friend asked me to do a baby shower. There's a lot of people moving around. I don't set things up like this. Put the flash on the camera, set it to TTL. Now, what do I do in the camera? Do I pick aperture mode? Do I pick shutter speed mode? Do I select the shutter speed that's supposed to be a sync speed? Where do I start on the camera? If I just have it on TTL and I'm going to be moving around the room doing stuff.
I would set this up. Generally, I would say I would set the shutter speed to something that you can handhold comfortably without getting camera movement. The TTL is gonna do all the rest of it, but if,
So a sync speed that I've heard of in the past doesn't really, it's not important for my choices.
if you're moving around with a tripod, which you probably
No.
wouldn't be, but if you were, then you could actually think, do I want to do what I just did? Have the background become an element in the picture, or do I not want that? But when you're mainly shooting on the run like that, although I've done a lot of that outside. So basically, I'm shooting I set my shutter speed at a shutter speed that is normally going to get a good exposure of the background, but it doesn't always work that way. I might not always want to do that, but.
Are you in manual mode then?
No, I've shot TTL and.
What's your camera set?
Camera say.
Oh, it depends on the light.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess from what I'm gathering, the adjustments you're making is shutter speed and ISO and all of that. Do you ever work with the intensity of the flash?
oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of times it's pretty low
Okay.
because I don't particularly want to overpower the environment, basically. But that, it depends. I mean, I try to get enough that I can trust my eye with focus. Although I use autofocus almost all the time now because I can't see very well anymore. But yeah, it's all. I mean, the beauty of this is you have so many options, and you have so much control over what you're getting. Unlike unlike ambient light, which you have very little control over. I'm a landscape photographer, so I go out in beautiful light, but I have no control. The only control over it is when I go out. But with flash, I mean, and especially off-camera flash, you've got a whole lot of control over the look of the light, the mood of the light, whether it's dramatic, whether it's soft, and
Does TTL control the duration of the flash? It doesn't change the camera settings, right? It just changes the duration of the flash.
I think it mainly changes the intensity of that flash.
Well, yeah. Which
Yeah.
is the duration.
It basically, it reads the flash and cuts it off. If you've got it 1:1, and it'll give you that. If you want it to be more powerful than in the background, you can plus it, so it'll give you more than the background. You got minus, whatever, you have all that control. I mean, like, I've never really used TTL in a very creative way. It's usually the desperate need for light. And no time to do any thinking or setting it up or anything, so it works for that pretty well.
John? Want to have a little time for our photo share, but thank you for your expertise.
Oh, yeah.
and your time. Thank you. Why don't we take a?
Oh, wait, Ray's got it.
Go ahead. Oh, I thought you had a question.
Oh, no, I'll just say, if you're doing, fill in flash, just to soften up a little bit. Is it okay with your flash to be on the camera, or is there a big advantage to moving it off the camera?
Well, there's a big advantage. I wouldn't say it's a big advantage, it's a different look. If you want to get some direction with the eye, when it's on the camera, it's straight. It's a straight flat light, problems with reflections in people's glasses. All that sort of, but yeah, it's just that you have no choice then about the direction of the light. But to me, that's a big deal.
Why don't we just take a couple minutes to?
Wait, one second, I think
Oh,
Ray has something to say.
John, listen, we appreciate the great presentation you gave us. And, for our presenters, we'd like to. Not enough to pay for what you did or what you parted on, but you know,
I do it for fun.
just a little
I didn't really
compensation.
even do it, but
We'd like to do that. And also our famous cup.
all right, yeah.
Guaranteed to keep your coffee hot for six hours.
That's not for what you did, it's for putting up with it.
Is this stuff in your way? Do I need to break this down?
Take a couple minutes to move around before we.
Take it to the toilet.
But, yeah, they're gonna take a break, so we can get it.
I know it's.
That just shows you I need a lot to learn.
Are you still teaching at VCU?
I am.
Me too.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm an adjunct,
Yeah, me too.
but I'm gonna be criminal justice.
Ah, okay.
What building are you in?
Apologies.
Which where is that?
It's on Robinson.
On Robinson.
It's that old building, it's right behind the theater.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice building.
Yeah. That's where the photo department has been.
One of these days, I've been told we get points. If you're a teacher, you get points and you can take a class. So one of these days you may see me, the old guy sitting in the first row.
It's on the side stand.
Dark for 9 majors. I've still got my environment.
That's right, still under construction. Yeah, I tried to, you know. I come last night. Last night, because I was trying to make sure what I was gonna say, I had to.
Yeah, I'm sitting on that. I think it's. Not travel. I really had decided that I wanted to. I realized after a while I was not.
That's the greatest.
Yosemite, these local photographers at these national parks. We're there all the time. Whenever the accidents, you know, you go out there and cars, this is not new.
Yeah.
I mean, you need any help getting everything going? Yeah, I could break that speed down. They're kind of old and wonky. Yeah, but they all work the same way, you know?
Yeah, we got a lot.
I've been in too many,
Yeah, got 'em.
camera, bags where they get, you know, the yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, we've got a lot of.
I don't know if you got it or. I don't know if you got it or not, but yeah.
Thank you, you're welcome to chill out.
Oh, I am. Okay, we got a blank photo here, so. Kim's got us underway, and who is this? MJ, tell us about your shots.
Well, this is for the architecture theme, and I thought it would be interesting to look at the building materials as well as the building style in two different parts of the world. So this is the ruins of the Nuestra Senora, the Los Angeles Mission Church in Pecos, New Mexico. It was built in 1787 using adobe bricks. Adobe is made from local earth, grass, or straw, and water, and the exact proportions depend on the composition of the earth. The adobe bricks are either hand formed or they're made in a wooden box and dried in the sun, which sometimes takes quite a long time. The adobe wall thickness is usually measured in feet. And I think you can see that by looking at some of the angular views on this picture, see how thick those walls are. When the walls are completed, a thick layer of adobe mud is spread over the top of the bricks to protect it. And I think you can see a bit of the, I don't know if I can do this, but anyway, I think you can see where some of the walls look smoother That's where some of the adobe mud covering is still there. Otherwise, the bricks will erode. And the next slide, please. This is a closer up view of some of those adobe bricks. Now these are exposed, so they've been eroding, and frankly, since the church was put out in the 1700s, it's amazing that these bricks are still around, but this is a climate adaptation, and that's why they last longer, but they need that coating. The adobe walls provide excellent insulation for keeping the heat out in the summer and keeping it warmer in the winter. The temperature variation in Pecos ranges from 28 degrees to 94. And the precipitation is very low, only about 12 inches a year. And noticeable humidity is virtually non-existent, which makes this adobe an excellent building material for high altitudes. High desert climate. Pecos is at 6,900 feet, by the way. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is Taos Pueblo in Taos, New Mexico. This building, or parts of it, were built about 1,000 years ago. Taos Pueblo is considered to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, continuously occupied communities in North America. And so in Taos, the summers are warm, the winters are freezing and snowing, and it's sunny year-round. Over the course of the year, the temperature can vary from 12 degrees to 84. And again, this is minimal humidity, and the elevation is 7,000 feet. Next slide. This is a close-up of some of the adobe mud that coats buildings in Taos Pueblo. And you can see that it has some of that straw in it, but this is what covers up and protects the adobe so it doesn't deteriorate quickly. And this adobe mud coating has to be done about once a year to make it work. Now, another attraction for, we're not quite there yet. One of the nice things about the adobe mud coating is that it's applied repeatedly over the lifetime of the building, making the walls thicker and therefore increasing the energy efficiency of the building. This is a very successful building style for the Southwest, and the invading Europeans adopted this building style as well for their churches and secular buildings. And adobe buildings, or fake adobe, because I lived in a fake adobe for a while, it looks like adobe stucco, is emblematic for the American Southwest. Okay, we move on to Australia. This is a view of the Alice Springs Telegraph Station in the Northern Territory of Australia. The complex served the needs of the telegraph staff and their families from 1872 to 1932. Telegraph operated 24 hours a day and was a vital communication link between Australia and the rest of the world. After the telegraph station closed in 1932, this complex was used as a school for Aboriginal children and also as a military base during World War II. The complex is now a historic reserve. Oh, and I want to point out the trees. These are eucalyptus trees. They call them gum trees in Australia. And these trees are emblematic for Australia. All right,
MJ, what did you call the name of the tree again?
Eucalyptus, and they call them gum trees. Okay, we have another, the next slide. This is the actual telegraph station at Alice Springs. It was built using locally quarried stone, including metamorphic and igneous rocks like granite and sedimentary rocks like sandstone and limestone. I also wanted to point out the verandas, and they have a sandstone floor. These contribute to heat control because the temperature can get quite warm in these areas. And right now, at any rate, it provides shade and also protects the amount of heat that goes into the doors and windows. And this kind of building style is, again, kind of emblematic of rural Australia, especially from the 1800s and 1900s. And the next slide. This is a close-up of the sedimentary stone blocks that were used in the construction of the telegraph building. Yes, in Alice, the average temperature, the average high of 90 degrees, the winters are only about 2 months long, and they only go down to 60 or 70. Now, the average precipitation is low as well, it's only 11 inches per year. The next slide. These block walls are cut quite thick, as you can see by looking at the recesses on the door and the window. So that kind of gives you an idea of the thickness of the block that's cut. And of course, that's excellent insulation to keep heat in the winter when using fireplaces, or to try to keep some heat out during the summer. All right, next slide. This is Rottnest Island. Rottnest Island is a small island just off the coast of Perth. The European settlement began in 1831, and historically it has a number of uses, including as an infamous Aboriginal prison, as a navigation aid with 2 lighthouses on it, and it was a fortress to protect the port of Fremantle during World War II. It's now preserved and maintained as a national park and reserve. Next slide. The most popular and populous resident of Rottnest Island are these little marsupials that are called quokkas, and they are really cute and friendly. You're not supposed to touch them, but they come right up to you, and it's impossible not to just, you know. Anyway, the next picture.
So is that a photograph you shouldn't have taken? Is that?
This shows how much they like people. This is just another tourist. I got a picture of her with them. And by the way, these marsupials look like rats. And a Dutch seaman who landed on Rottnest Island a couple 100 years ago saw them scampering over the rocks, and he thought they were rats, so he called the island Rottnest. Rot in Dutch apparently is rat. Anyway, next picture. This is a former lightkeeper's cottage on Rottnest. It's typical of the other residential and functional buildings built of locally quarried stone in 1847, and with these broad verandas and a low slope on the roof. This particular building has been converted into a temporary residence for park visitors. I spent the night in that building there about 5 years ago. And the next picture. This is a close-up of the limestone blocks that this building is made of. Limestone is a sedimentary rock. It's considered very durable for most climates. Rottnest climate is kind of temperate. It has cool, wet weather in the winter and warm, dry summers. Average high temperatures are in the low 70s. Average lows only in the 40s, and they have 29 inches of rainfall average per year. And this is my last slide. This shows again how thick cut these blocks are. If you look at the recess on that window, that obviously the sliding glass door was not part of the original structure, but it's really a cool place to stay. You can see how close it is to the water. Anyway, this again is good insulation for keeping heat in the winter and keeping heat out in the summer. So basically, that's my thing. I just wanted to show how architecture and locally available building materials have been successfully used in a couple of different climates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is mine. We're jumping ahead to motion, which is I guess, the current challenge. This, as you probably can guess, is taking in an airplane, taking off from Boston. Next, please. I learned from Nancy, camera shake is a good thing. And that is out here at the Richmond Airport. That's on the Teapot Bridge, looking down. More things you can blame on Nancy. That's obviously the city at night, with the camera bouncing up and down. And that's on one of the bridges, 4th Street Bridge probably, which I spent a lot of time on. And handheld going up and down again. You can all guess what that is.
Was that a long exposure or was that camera movement?
That's camera movement. The motion here is more the waves and the spray that's down along the river. If you're lucky, you'll be down there when the kayakers are working out. And because of the rocks, you can get about 10 feet away from them as they go through. And as I said, if you're lucky, you get some great stuff. One of the many races here in Richmond. That's the Science Museum, and you all recognize that if you've been to the Science Museum. It's where that wind goes back and forth, measuring the time.
How long was that, you know?
Oh, no, it was very short.
Wasn't
I don't know exactly.
Thirteenth of a second.
13th of a second. Okay, thank you. And that's a bike rider in England. I like the sense of motion there, obviously. And I think that's it. Those are my motion shots. Tom,
Yeah, this is at Louis Theater right now. This is the night before they opened up with the member preview show. I was there. They needed photographs of the sculptures there for this Encanto exhibit. And they were testing the lighting. This is the first night that this sculpture was lit up. And I spent about an hour there with the artist, Kate Raudenbush, as it was getting dark. And we were trying to get the right angles and try to, get good shots there. And the gardens needed to have my photographs by 11 o'clock that night so that they could be posted on Axios. And so I left there just before 9 o'clock with this shot and a few others, which ended up quite a bit of media. So that was one of my favorite shots. Next. This is that same sculpture during the daytime with long exposure. That's a really cool sculpture out there in the Central Gardens.
You used a tripod.
I used a tripod, yeah. And the fountains were spraying high, so I wanted to get that long exposure there. So I would highly recommend getting out there. Now, about a month ago, they had an event that was part of this, was put on by Gallery 5. They had a bunch of fire artists there. And again, the gardens wanted photographs of the art with the crowd in them because they're going to be put on a cover of a magazine, some magazine that I'll never see, some public garden magazine or something. But anyway, so they wanted to have photographs of that, so I went behind them so that I could get those. And Patricia Munford was there too, so I brought her around that too.
What time of day was this?
This was in the evening. This was probably 7:30 I was there from about 7:30 to 8:30. As it got darker, some of the pictures got, more vibrant.
do you remember the technical details on this one?
Let's see. There's somewhere in the half second to 1 second time frame. Oh, that was 0.3 of a second. Okay. ISO 50. I was trying to get as long of an exposure as I could.
you know, 720.
And I did some that went up to, a second or more long. I was on a tripod, but still moving a little bit. Okay, next. Here's one of the other, this guy, he had some really large amounts of flame to it, which was pretty cool. Next. Okay, 3/5 of a second. This was that early, she had two things that she was twirling. And it was a really popular show. When we got there around 7 o'clock, my wife and grandson, the parking lot was absolutely full. You know, they were turning people away, but I parked in a secret place.
Did you say hand? Did you say handheld or on a tripod?
It was on a tripod.
On a tripod.
Yeah, it's on it. Next. That was something, yeah. 13/10 of a second. It's interesting how it's. And you could barely see the guy who was doing it, but the flames are pretty cool. Next. And another one, that one was good. They wanted some portrait style shots. So that, and I thought that would be good to have the conservatory in the background. Next. And another one, and by this point it was getting later and darker, so my exposure were up over a second long because it was dark enough I could do that. And I was still at this point I was up to ISO 200, where I had been at ISO 50 to start. I was trying to get the balance. Next. This is one of my focus stacking shots. It was an iris from my garden. That was about 25 shots. It's at 160 a second because I was using an off-camera strobe through a translucent umbrella to try to get that. And I wanted to get all of the detail in there that I could. Next. This was up in Assateague Island. I was in a photo workshop back in April, which wasn't all that great of a photo workshop, but I did get a couple of nice pictures. So that was one of the other photographers who was there, but he just happened to be standing looking at it, and that was before the sun came up, and I thought it was a pretty interesting shot. And next. This was also at Assateague. This is a 3-week-old foal, one of the wild horses up there, and it happened to be walking past this area, and it was backlit. It was just a very nice scene, so I took that one. Next. I took this one on Saturday. I had my photography workshop at Lewis Ginter, and while the group and I were out taking photographs, I decided for fun, instead of using my macro lens, I would just walk around with my 100 to 400 millimeter telephoto. So all the pictures I took that day were with the telephoto lens, which was fun. And I took this photograph of a cardinal. It's in a shrub, and it wasn't that far away. So I got a nice photograph, but when I was editing it, I was like, wow, I really got a lot of detail in the feathers. And so I cropped in really close. I just thought that all of the detail in the feathers was pretty cool. So I like that shot. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You hear that, Ed? He cropped in very tight on that.
Well done.
Who's up? Neil.
Yes. This is an assassin bug. It's up at Meadow Farm doing some macro photography and managed to catch this guy. See that little thing on the front?
How big is that bug?
Really little?
Less than a half an inch.
Wow.
They stick that proboscis into another bug and digest it from the inside.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Just a a bee, a little tiny bee. There are so many kinds of bees, I don't know what any of them are. Okay. This is the Lancelot room at the Boston Public Library. We were up there for my son's graduation, so I do a little architecture into the mix as well. Okay, here's my son and his girlfriend. I almost never take pictures of people, but it's graduation day and we just got to. I caught one moment. Yeah, he's really happy. Okay. This is dragonfly macro. Get a look at the.
What lens are you using?
It's an Olympus camera with the 60mm macro lens with this 120 equivalent full frame.
How close are you? How close is it?
Only a few inches. Sometimes they'll sit there and let you do that. I don't know what possesses them. Well, I've got the smaller camera with the lens, and it doesn't seem to scare them as much.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I know, I didn't.
This is Emily Dickinson's dress. It's a replica. As we were driving home, we stopped in Amherst and toured Emily Dickinson's home. Okay. A fly.
And he let you get that close?
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was sitting on a fence, and I just eased in closer and closer till I got that close.
Yeah.
For some reason. I guess I'm a little buggy myself. Okay.
What time of the day was that shot at?
Pardon?
What time of the day was the fly shot? Was it early in the morning before they started
It was
stirring?
mid-morning. It was a cool morning.
Cold morning.
Yes.
Is it true that bugs, if you get them in the morning, they're less likely to be active?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is a fact.
So if you're going out and trying bug shots, get out there
The
early
morning is a good time.
morning before they
They're
get.
coming out, they'll come out in the sun and warm themselves up a little bit. And before they really get warm thoroughly, they'll sit still for you.
Particularly,
Yeah, we went to
particularly
Cape Cod too, and it's mandatory that you take a lighthouse. They arrest you and put you in jail. I didn't want to take the chance. Okay. This is Old South Church in Boston.
Oh, that's quite a place.
It's incredible. If you ever want to make yourself feel really insignificant, sit there for a while. It's gorgeous. It's just the pigeon guy in the park. I could say I don't normally take pictures of people, but I couldn't resist. This guy took one quick shot before.
You're really focusing on the pigeons, that's what you're.
Yes, evidently, yes.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Perfect shot.
This is the Potomac River, Great Falls in Rockville, Maryland. And last, a 6-spotted tiger beetle. They're about a ½ inch long. They run really quickly, they fly really well, they're very active. I managed to catch this one just as he was eating another bug, and I got on the log and I was able to do a manual focus and get the front of the insect. I could wait 10 more years and never have those conditions again, but I managed to get one good shot. If you need a movie monster, is a good model. Thank you.
So if we ever.
Oh, I have one more. Oh, a jumping spider. That one's also from Meadow Farm. Everybody likes those because they look like they have a little face, and this one has a little butch haircut. You remember from the, so, he's really tiny, tiny, and I imagine, oh, yeah, I got more with my finger. This is, Mayflower Beach in Dennis, Massachusetts, looking over the bay. Now, sunsets on the beach. I really don't feel like I have anything new or fresh or different to say about sunsets on the beach. But when you're standing there looking at it, the camera's in your hand, it's irresistible. So I want to take some pictures.
We're glad you didn't resist.
Pardon?
It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, here's all the sun just going down. Okay. The pink and was just gorgeous. And there's the.
You were there for a little while there.
We were, yeah, we stayed through the whole thing until it got dark. I think that's it. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Well, that was a potpourri.
That's that it?
From the beach to the books. Yeah. There were a group bug sheep.
Bring along the bug whisperer.
Me, I think this is you.
I took this year for Easter Coast, however. But that day it was raining, and my camera got wet. Because I have a t-shirt they gave to me that morning. I ripped out my 400 millimeter and do the shot. And I think ISO was ISO was pretty high, and therefore, 800. The speed was 800. Oh, 1 second. It's just that I told Pat. Once I get there, the position and get everyone out of my way, I say, excuse me, behind me, don't stand here. That's it. That's the only chance I got. And same, they are, I think they're June. June has 16. Yeah, 16. This one has lighter notes because of reflection, you can see that it's putting down very much. I told you, I might need to change my camera, replace camera. It's just totally wet. The new t-shirt was wet in my hand. But anyway, I got it.
It's that one of those umbrellas that sits on your head.
Well, the camera was this one.
The camera survived.
Yes, survivor. I remember Peter once talked about how you rescue your camera. So went back home right away. I take my camera to basement. In my basement, we have 24/7 DV for that particular lab. We call it for the lab. So I just open up everything and let them sit there for 24 hours. So far, I think my camera is safe. And this rugby we took last year. I want to say a special thanks to Mark. Rugby, when the first time I heard it was, I think it's for sure. He did some photo. After that, I said, what this game is. Also, rugby and Bill searched all the stuff right here. I just pulled it here. My special interest about the human expression. You take a look at it. The ladies, when they try getting into a fight, they don't care, they don't kill someone. And also I have some males rugby next time I can share with you guys. Then Richard cursed each other, get so angry, but then their mouth, their face, and their head muscle kind of destroyed. That's what I interested about that. That's it. Oh, that's what I was able.
But you wrote it?
Yeah, this is, at the National Zoo in DC. And this is a red panda. And I guess he's fairly famous for escaping the zoo. I think he's got out of his compound there 3 or 4 times and runs around in the neighborhoods in DC. So, anyway, they managed to capture him and bring him back. This is a picture of my grandson at a state high school track meet that was held over at the track near the Diamond. I like that one because both his feet were off the ground.
Yeah.
And this is the handoff in the relay. Here we go.
You got the shadow signs.
I was out on the bridge going across 64 one day, so I just took this picture. And that's looking east on 64 off of North Gayton Road. This is a statue. There's a restaurant here in DC. It's out in the kind of the hunt country, and they have this statue out in front of the restaurant. This is at Short Pump Park. It's the splash pad.
Yeah.
I took my granddaughter over there. She's not actually in this picture, but all those little kids were running around. I thought it was a kind of a neat picture. This is me winning a race. Anyway, I got disqualified. I wasn't wearing any protective gear. You know, I humiliated the field. This was actually an Indian motorcycle display at Daytona at the track during Daytona Bike Week. They had this backdrop, and it was a real motorcycle bolted to the stand in front of it. So I had my camera, and I got one of my friends to snap the picture.
That's
A great shot.
I like that.
This was in Daytona at the same time. That's Main Street, which usually they reserve all the parking on Main Street for motorcycles. Of course, that one right there in the corner is as big as a car. But anyway, this guy was riding his classic Corvette through town, looking at all the bikes.
Well, this is Moulton, as you can see. This is a graduation at St. Mary's College in South Bend, Indiana, which is right across the street from Notre Dame. And the far left is our oldest granddaughter. So when they graduated, they had a bottle of champagne and they uncorked it all. And I stood back far enough so I wouldn't ruin my lens. But you can see the champagne is headed in my direction. And kind of a custom that they do on the campus of St. Mary's. This is another granddaughter at one of her lacrosse games here. She's very big into lacrosse, and there'll be another shot of her coming up in a minute. This is the other one. She is in between 20 and 24 in the black. She's really gotten into lacrosse. I don't know anything about lacrosse, but as a grandfather, I'm learning. you know? So it's kind of, it's a win-win, because you get to take pictures of your grandchildren and at an athletic event, and you get to practice photography. So it's win-win, right? It's better than taking pictures of birthday cakes. Okay. This was another cross-country meet, and one of the faculty just saw me with a camera and asked if I was, working for the school. I said no, and they said, well, if you could take some pictures, we'd appreciate it. And so I just happened to be in this spot, and I really like this picture. I mean, this young lady is completely airborne,
Yeah. And her expression.
Yeah, it's really, I envy her tenacity and her strength. Okay. This was when we were in London at Heathrow Airport waiting to come home. And we had a long wait. We stayed overnight at the hotel right at the airport. And I was looking out the window and this jet came in. And I mean, really, when you look at it, you wonder if he's going to make the runway in time. I don't know that I want to be living in the building right below it, but actually there was some space, I'm assuming. So that's that Photoshop rating. That's the real picture. And this is just a picture that I like. It's a memory kind of shot from the Big Thompson River out in Estes Park, Colorado. And it's absolutely a beautiful body of water and a great trout stream too. I like that. Another picture of a couple of young folks who I took the picture and then converted it into black and white. But again, the thing I liked about it was both of their feet are, all of their feet are completely off the ground. They're completely airborne.
Did you you had your camera on continuous, or you just kind of?
Yeah, no, I was shooting it in sport mode.
Okay.
I find that works well. I just set it on sport mode. You burn up about 25 images in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But you do get to pick one out. And then I just fooled around with it to see. It was a little. You can still see a little underexposed there. So I was trying to see if maybe a black and white would work better. This is in Paris, right at the Arc de Triomphe, where the big circle is. And the thing that struck me funny was that all these little cars were in an absolute gridlock. This is about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But the guy on the motorcycle and the guy on the bike were just cutting through traffic.
Well, that's actually Roger with his helmet on.
Yeah.
That's Roger with his helmet.
There he is. Yeah, incognito.
I thought it was a parking lot.
And there it is, man. I mean, it is. Those cars are all supposed to be moving, but it's.
Oh,
Yeah, God, that's really amazing. Thank you.
This is mine. 3 events I have here today. This is Willie D. He's a local guitarist. I was taking lessons from him for a couple of years before the pandemic, and right around that time, he asked if I do some pictures for him, and then everything shut down. So this was just a few weeks ago at the River Rock event down on Browns Island, and I asked for permission to shoot, and they told me, if you're not with the publication, you can't let you bring your camera in, but you can enter our contest. So I paid $25 and entered the contest. I got a t-shirt and a beer with that, so it really only cost me $10. And I was about to go up, there's a photo pit area right in the front, and I was up there by myself. I didn't enter the contest, but I wanted to take Willie's pictures, so I gave them to him. And you can hear one of his songs on WNRN right now and stuff. He's got some cool video stuff. So I did a lot for him, but there's a few here that I'll show you. It's Willie, and he goes by D-E, and so that's on the stage at Browns Island. I always try and get some close up of their hands, because I just like looking at their stuff. Now this is last Friday at the National, and so this is inside, and I'm dealing with all kinds of changing lights. It just changes all the time. And the rules for indoor placement, it's always 3 songs with flash. And this time they told me 15 minutes, no flash. I was the only person in the photo pit there, and I realized the difference in that was because they started at 8:30, they did not stop until 10 o'clock. Not between songs, not the pause, they segued everything one into the next, a lot of instrumental stuff. So after a while, I thought, well, it's going to be the same for a while, but I didn't expect them to play. And then they took a break for a half hour, 40 minutes, and then they started playing about 10:40, 11:30. I got my money's worth and left. They were still playing. But they're called the Disco Biscuits. I first saw them 24 years ago, and there was 11 of us in the bar. And now they've been touring like this for years with the big buses and all the lighting things. Early on, the light was like a washed out kind of red and blue. And I think some bands just do this to frustrate the photographer.
Well, on that last shot, Paul, did you do any, you didn't use a flash because they don't like you to use a flash, and we just kind of.
I just was adjusting the exposure to get it. They wear these hats and it was really hard to get their eyes. But that's just the way the next shot was all red, the next one was all blue. This one was, some of the black and white ones were washed out, like it was just a red hazy thing. And I tried switching to black and white because this stuff happened later on. I took these to the balcony. They had, they're pretty famous for their lights. They bring their own lights to the venue. And it gets pretty freaky looking. Now this, I was at the same tournament Ling was, and I saw her taking pictures of the Richmond men's team, and I thought, oh, she's going to get some good ones there. So I turned around to the women's game on the other field. Each team had a couple big ladies like this that were really imposing to bring down. So I have you know the women's game here. Now this is a sequence of about 4 with this woman right here, and she's got the ball. She broke through that first tackle. She's breaking through this one. She's still going.
And you had it on continuous and
yeah, it was on slow. There, she's finally coming down, and for rugby, you got to pass it backwards or sideways, and that's what she's doing. There's somebody, a teammate, is following right behind her, and she's broken through about 3 or 4 people, but giving it up now.
Okay. Who we got? Oh,
Bill.
Speaking of motion, Ling and I both like to see a lot of sports so we can get these action shots. And this spring was the first time that we started shooting lacrosse. Never done it before, don't know anything about the game, and just went out and started. We've been doing outdoor sports, pickleball, rugby, of course, the triathlons, even women's roller derby. But yeah, what I'm trying to do, and I'm shooting on man, and I'm using 80 to 400 lens on manual, and shutter speed is 1,250. And of course, the ISO varies based on what's going on. And 5. No, this one I didn't shoot it on 5.6. I shot it on 9. The light was just right, and I was able to get more depth of field than you can get on a lot of them. But you know, I was lucky I caught the ball. The fellow just let it go, and the goalie's trying to stop it. All of these, by the way, are across. So we go to the next one. Here's another one. The background is not as attractive. Got that
apparition in the background, but that one was high, obviously, and the fellow over at the left frame that's just, you know, projected it toward the goalie and it went high.
What time of day, the shadows look real long?
Well, the time of day varies. Some of them start at 4. The one that the first one we saw was 4 to 6. That was a nice, pretty good. I think it's when it was. But I'm not sure. You know, not quite.
Well,
This-
yeah.
That's not
6 in the morning, your clock must be rolling.
clock. My clock is not set right. I'm not positive what time of day it was. Most of the games are either 12 or 4, and these pictures came from several different games. They're not all the same, but they are all at the University of Richmond. Here's another. I was lucky and got the ball right at the right time. I try not to. Here's the women's team, and by the way, of these represent 5 different games, and only one at-home women's game. That's why I have less women. Not that I favor the men. Only one shot women, and as a matter of fact, she has not launched the ball yet. It's this young lady, and they maybe you can see it, the yellow ball and the white bar player. And there's the one I got it on that ball and goalie back there. Keep it rid of the races. Try to stop it. But anyway, I just got fascinated with emotions.
You should all these from in the bleachers?
Yeah, unfortunately, it used to be, and I got down as low as I could. The problem is that players' heads you don't want to get. It used to be, I was told that they let you get on the track, but they stopped it this year, so we had to shoot bleachers. That's a big disadvantage. And people with press passes, there were 3 or 4 photographers on the track on the other side on the player level. You know, of course, that'd be more dramatic. You can get down low. Couldn't do it. Had to settle for what I could get.
They also have a club team at Richmond. And I bet it's a lot more lax as far as I went down to William Mary to their club team.
Oh, really?
I can walk on the side.
I didn't know
The
that.
parents were sitting on folding chairs on the sidelines. It's different when you get to the far side, but
Yeah.
club level, it's still fun sports to watch.
Oh,
and
yeah.
be able to get in closer.
Thanks for telling me. Thanks a lot. I think, yeah, that's all.
We did.
Yeah.
This is a surprise.
No,
We did not hear that. Courthouse, downtown. It's a lot of favorite photography in here. Gothic Richmond title. And back when they allowed you to get into the courthouse, you went around. I was with the group and I came out and I thought, boy, I'd like that angle. But it didn't work in color. So I said, okay, let's make it look more Gothic. And let's put a movement in it. And what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with the logic of the picture?
Well, blue lights coming from the wrong angle or something?
No, light's pretty good. But here I am trying to fake it to be at night. And that's a lamp right there.
it's not lit.
It's not.
Light bulb was burned out.
But anyway, it became one of my favorite pictures and
We'll have to dodge and burn that in that lantern.
we all know the pump house.
Yep. Yeah.
And this was an experiment. That's why I'm kind of surprised these are here. This was kind of an experiment I did. I was down, tried with some color, then went to black and white. Then I thought, okay, really boring sky. I thought, okay, I'm going to change the sky. I found a sky with clouds in it, but I couldn't like, and I said, oh, wait a minute. It's got to reflect in the water. Okay, so that was another challenge of bringing the sky, flip-flopping it, putting it into the water, and then trying to match it up with the sky that I already put in. Okay, you're smiling, you know what I'm talking about. And actually, that kind of came out nice, but I think if I was going to do this again, or if I'm going to touch it up or something, and make the bottom part, the water part of it, maybe a little darker. And then, you know, so forth there, from there. Of course, I guess we've all been to the sometimes. These working heavens 500 times. Anyhow. Okay, we got all my pictures here, video. This was of course, it's the downtown station. And I was with a group of people and I wasn't walking very well at the time. They were off doing other things and doing stuff. I had my tripod with me. And, you know, we've been down there at night. It's kind of the color of the building is kind of old color. And so I set it up, I took a picture and did some different things with it. Kind of liked it, except it had a big old nasty building behind it. Yeah. If you've taken this picture before, there's a tall new structure in the back that to me was just distracting. So of course I went to Photoshop and took that out and thought, oh, okay, let's put a couple and voila, there's the picture. For somebody who's not from Richmond. No, okay. Before I leave, I don't know if you've all talked about it or not, but Photoshop beta version is out. And this is the latest upgrade. And it's beta. I know you see the type of it. But this is their AI version. They're experimenting with the text. And you can get it, download it. You're going to hate it to begin with, but then it does some really magic things. And you give a lecture.
Roger did, what we do with it.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, thank you.
This is one of mine. That's just a little movement of light, you know. That's at Eppington plantation down in Chesterfield. And here's some motion during a practice session of Virginia International Raceway with Porsche was running off the edge of the road and kicking up some dust. Then this is down the other end of the track, same track. A Ferrari. And this is the motion going every which direction. This was I think it may have been the very start of a Porsche GT3 Cup race down in Miami during the Formula One weekend. It was one of the support races there, and they just started spinning out, and everybody was going everywhere. Here's a Mallard coming in for a landing. And here's some motion that stopped. Water stopped at going over a dam at Whittles Mill down in southern Virginia. And this is at Texas Beach.
Texas.
Yeah, it's blurred, the water's blurred. That's also right there at Texas Beach.
I'm close now.
I don't know, this is from a couple years ago.
Okay.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, thanks, Cam. gardens outing a couple of weeks ago, and I just got lucky. I had my new camera, and I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked. That was also at Gateway Gardens, and everybody was cool. I think Tom pointed out the turtle, and there he is, turtle. Hey, how big was it, Tom? It's about this big, right? I like high key, low out things, so that's a high key flowers from that day. Another one of my architectural detail, noisy, grainy series. So I got the new camera, and I went to Strange's, and I couldn't get anything in focus. Not near, not far, not anything. So I said, I'll just say color. I mean, so I kind of like it. But now I know a little bit about how to use the camera. I probably won't be able to do it. That you are.
Yeah.
You are. This is raindrops on a cobweb in my back patio. I haven't cleaned my back patio, it's full of cobwebs, so. It's a good photo opportunity. Pony pasture. That's the little church and BMFA in the back. I put some texture over it.
Yeah.
What did you use for you? Is that a topaz thing or a Lightroom or a topaz? That piece of glass was that color. It was a vase. I just got a little, I just cropped in on it and played with some blending modes. And made an abstract. I like abstracts. Not me, obviously.
Parks had to leave and he said he would do this next month.
Oh, okay.
That was the same night that I took those photos at,
Yeah.
at the garden.
Well, this is me. I'm a novice at this, but I was taking its class last fall. And so this was one of my week's assignments, if you will, but I was up on hill on 360 and basically just playing with the camera, and I had some shots that I froze the action and some that I got the motion, so that's what that one is. This one, I was standing at the entrance to my subdivision. I heard the fire truck coming, knew that I'm not gonna have any time. I knew my camera was adjusted pretty well for exposure. I didn't have any clue where I was otherwise. So I woke up the camera pre-focused and knew I might get one shot, maybe two. He went by, I took the picture and I got that one also. Didn't have any clue what I was going to come up with. There was no plan, but I thought it was interesting.
I think that's pretty cool because you've got basically panning also.
Movement of the truck, yeah, in camera, yeah.
Yeah, so you're getting the camera motion from the panning as well as from the fire. And because you're panning in the direction of the fire truck is a little bit more in focus than you have.
That's it.
And that's it.
That's the best shot I've seen all night.
We all done?
Well, other
Yeah,
than
it's okay.
personal ones of you. Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. It was great. We'll see you next month, and we will send out a reminder of what we're gonna be doing and tell you all about it.
All right.
Right?
Y'all have a great rest of the month, and we'll see you for the
Bye, Bill.
fireworks. Oh, we have a theme for next month, Peter?